Bom dia a todos. Eu estou hoje aqui com a Joanne Avison do Reino Unido e ela vai falar hoje para a gente sobre fáscia. Ela é uma professora de yoga, ela vai falar sobre biotensegridade e ela também estará no congresso no Canadá esse ano, março, dia 29, 30 e 31. Good morning, Joanne. How are you?
Good morning, Anna. I'm really well, thank you. Lovely to meet you online and see you, and thank you.
Likewise here. So I would like to start with the question, why did you call your book Yoga, Fascia and Movement? We know that yoga is about unifying, but could you explain a little bit better about that?
Yeah. So yoga is, the word yoga means unifying, or rather the word yoga means unify.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's unifying because in English that implies a process.
Então eu perguntei para ela por que ela chamou o livro dela de Yoga, Faixa e Movimento, e ela falou para mim assim, a palavra yoga significa unificar, mas ela prefere usar a palavra como unificando, porque unificando inclui um processo.
Yeah. So yoga in its essence talks about the balancing of forces. And those forces are Ida and Pingala. And when Ida and Pingala are united in appropriate balance, Shushumna is the natural neutral arising from that balance.
Então, a yoga, ela trabalha com algumas forças. Trabalha com a força de Ida e Pingala. E quando essas forças estão equilibradamente funcionando, surge uma outra força que é Shushumna.
So in biotensegrity, we have the force of tension and we have the force of compression. And on their own, they are just interesting forces. But when they are united in a certain way, they become a volume from which a neutral container arises. So in fact, biotensegrity and yoga are beautifully illustrated in each other. They make sense of each other. So we call that, if you like in the mystery schools, it's called the Holy Trinity, is a triumvirate of forces. So we have tension and compression, and then tension compression as a whole.
Ok.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes. Quando a gente
I'm
fala
just going to get a model while you translate.
Ok. Quando a gente fala de biotensegridade, a gente fala das forças de tensão e de compressão. Então, quando a gente tem a força de tensão e de compressão, a gente tem uma outra força que surge, que é uma força neutra, que ela chama de um volume neutro, um volume neutro. Então, assim como o yoga, a biotensegridade trabalha pensando nessa força desse triângulo, tá? Então, na biotensegridade, tensão, compressão, gerando, então, essa força neutra. Ok.
So that Holy Trinity takes us into 3 dimensions. And as you will have learned in your interview with John Sharkey, that allows us the wholeness. This wholeness represents one moment in time. And in yoga, we work a great deal with stillness and presence and moving with balance as a continuing process. So in other words, it changes moment by moment and movement by movement. So biotensegrity is expressed in soft matter uniquely in every moment.
Ok. Então, a biotensegridade representa esse modelo que ela mostrou aqui pra gente, e nesse modelo a gente consegue ver esses triângulos. Mas o que há de mais interessante na biotensegridade é que ela é única a cada movimento, a cada momento ela é única. Então, a gente pode falar que, assim como o yoga, cada momento e cada movimento tem a sua peculiaridade.
So interestingly, my background is in yoga and structural integration. I'm a yoga teacher and a yoga therapist. And I trained with Tom Myers for many years, and I became one of his teachers. And for me, the importance of understanding the soft architecture of the body is that when the tension and compression are in this mutual balance and Sushumna arises, we become a clear, resonating frequency field. This becomes a field. It's not a thing, it's a whole field of awareness, which is, of course, fascia links with proprioception, and we sense, we start animating the sensory nature of the fascia through the form, through the tensional integration of compression, and the compressional integration of tension becomes a mutual dynamic that changes moment by moment.
Ok. Então ela fala que ela tem a experiência dela com yoga, integração estrutural, e já trabalhou há muito tempo com Tom Myers. Ela foi uma das instrutoras do Tom Myers. Então, quando a gente pensa nesse modelo de biotensegridade, a gente tem que pensar nessa parte, esse arcabouço, que é a parte mais mole dela, né? Então, se a gente pensa numa força de tensão e compressão, gerando uma força de equilíbrio ótima, a gente gera uma estrutura onde há uma energia de consciência muito maior do que se essas forças não estivessem presentes de forma tão equilibradas. Então, a resultante de tudo isso que é tão importante é gerar essa energia, esse corpo cheio de consciência.
So, one of the fascinating things for me is I am also, my master's degree is in spiritual sciences. I was going to say sports and exercise science, that's my son. Mine is in spiritual sciences. And to my delight, what I discovered in studying the ancient mystery school teachings is that deep to them is what's called sacred geometry of form. And it applies to the cosmos, to the body, and to the cell. So we have the microcosm, the macrocosm, and the cosmic whole, all governed by the same rules.
Ok. Então ela diz que o master dela foi em ciências espiritualistas. E ela fala que tem uma coisa muito interessante nesses estudos, uma parte que fala sobre a geometria sagrada das formas. E essa geometria sagrada das formas, ela vai do micro para o macro e para o cosmo. Mas o mais interessante é que ela tem a mesma linguagem nesses três campos.
So I originally studied fine arts, so Leonardo da Vinci was my master. And of course, deep to his drawings are profound understandings of the organization of relationships. For example, the scale of the moon to the earth is inside the famous drawing of Vitruvian Man. It's represented in there. And so are the fundamental shapes of all forms in the universe. And what is so exciting about biotensegrity and yoga is we can bring together this understanding of consciousness, the very esoteric side, reflected in the physical manifestation, and we start making sense of the living architecture.
Okay.
And how we move, if that makes...
Yes.
You can say that, yeah.
Ela estudou também artes, e um grande mestre, Leonardo da Vinci, falava da relação das formas. Então, por exemplo, a relação da Lua com a Terra, né? E quando a gente estuda biotensegridade, a gente também pode pensar dessa forma. Existe uma relação das formas no corpo onde há biotensegridade, onde você tem uma consciência, né? Até a gente pode falar com um certo esoterismo, né? através de uma manifestação física, né? Então, essa relação das formas, da energia dessas formas, é que ela acha super interessante. Ok.
So one of the beautiful things in this presentation that we're doing, John and Wilbur and I, is obviously John and Wilbur, they're guys, and I'm the feminine. So in any, whether it's the yin and yang or the Ida Pingala, the male, female, the symbolism is deep to how we create unity as the sum of those parts. But we have to think for 3 dimensions. One plus the other brings about the third. So 1 plus 2 is 3, which sounds a bit crazy because really you're saying 1 plus 1 is 3, but actually it's 1 and the other, the second thing, 1 and 2 is 3. So tension plus compression creates tension compression, what we said at the beginning. And we bring together what we might call a more masculine focused approach. Don't hang me, but there is the drive to achieve and move in big movements. We need to do that, all of us. And I'm talking about the masculine and feminine in each of us, not that they're masculine, therefore I'm feminine, therefore we're different. I don't mean that. But also there is always the counterbalance, the equal and opposite force. So in that program, I will be working with the softer side of our, if you like, our more internal, quiet, the listening side, as well as the activated side, just to bring that balance. I don't have the best words, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes, that's wonderful. Então, no Congresso do Canadá, o John e o Wilbur vão falar da biotensegridade, mas com uma visão masculina, né? Então, é com a energia mais masculina. E ela vai entrar nesse congresso para falar um pouco de biotensegridade com essa visão um pouco mais da energia feminina. Ambos falando do movimento integrado a essas energias. Então, o que ela quer dizer com isso? Que a biotensegridade gera no nosso corpo, né? A gente tem um lado feminino e um lado masculino, mas na nossa parte feminina, ela gera consciência. E o approach da Joanne vai ser exatamente nessa parte mais da consciência, nessa parte mais sensorial. I think that explanation is brilliant. I love it.
Well, thank you. Well, it thrills me because the other thing is, Anna, that, and I teach a lot of this work with Pilates schools and yoga schools and all movement schools. We have all that in our ability. So, for example, many of the yoga masters are male. There is a male lineage, and in fact, yoga postures were originally designed for young boys to manage their energy and calm them down and discipline them. And in fact, the postures are 1/8 of 1/40th of the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda. So there's about 40 aspects of Ayurvedic medicine. And of those 40, 1 is yoga. And of that 1, we have the 8 yamas. Mm-hmm. And the postures are 1 of those. Mm-hmm. So when we get into fierce yoga and strength yoga and power yoga, that's great for harnessing that high energy. But we must counterbalance that, as the body is counterbalanced, with a listening yoga, with a yoga of what's already there. And then we start to access our innate, what Vanda Scaravelli used to call anti-gravity reflex. And what that is a submission to ground reaction force. And we start being able to animate movement completely naturally as an elastic recoil. That's biotensegrity.
And I think we cannot forget that fascia is a very sensorial organ full of proprioception information. Therefore, we have to assess that too.
Anna, it's so important. I actually believe the work coming through now showing that fascia is the largest sensory organ of the body. Mm-hmm. And in fact, work that is so exciting to find out how fascia conducts light. If you want to translate this bit, and I'll go back to something about light that's really important that I want to bring into this discussion.
Então, eu falei para ela que eu achei brilhante essa forma com que ela conceitua a biotensegridade. Eu nunca tinha ouvido uma pessoa falar dessa forma. E ela falou que, sendo uma professora de yoga por muitos anos em vários locais, ela percebe que, assim, por exemplo, o asana da yoga representa 1/8 da yoga. E é uma postura onde você requer força, então muita energia masculina presente. Mas a gente não pode esquecer que na yoga a gente tem a parte que a gente tem que acessar dentro da gente, a parte de consciência, de sensações, né? E essa parte que ela gosta de abordar e acha muito importante. Ela fala que quando a gente acessa essa parte, tem eles comentam sobre uma força antigravitacional que a gente consegue fazer com o corpo para realizar os movimentos. E essa força antigravitacional, ela vai então trabalhar com o que a gente chama de recoil, né? Então vem daí também esse trabalho. Aí eu falei para ela que a gente não pode negligenciar essa parte de interocepção, de sensações, porque a gente sabe que a face é um grande órgão sensorial. E aí ela começa a falar a relação, então, agora dessa face sendo órgão sensorial, o maior órgão sensorial do nosso corpo, e ela vai fazer um paralelo com light, com luz. Ok.
So in 2011, I believe it was, at Tufts University in Boston, there was work done showing that in the working with frog embryos, there is what they call a bioelectric light print comes in to animate the sensory organization in the soft matter tissues. Now, before I am accused of being too esoteric, you can measure light emission in the human body. And it is usually associated with, and there's research to show this, it is associated with health, that an organ can emit the right light or not. And that's not being, standing outside waving parsley over someone's head and flowers. This is, we know we grow in the light. This is not a new idea by any means. But the importance of measuring the light and the conductivity, the electromagnetic field, this is even part of MRI scanning. So we're using these invisible but extremely potent forces. This is a map of invisible forces. Biotensegrity maps invisible forces. This is not a map of the tissues. This is a map of the forces. And there are electromagnetic forces. We know we have an electromagnetic field. And they have now, in this Tufts University, they showed this bioelectric light print. There's a video of it on YouTube. That can light up the sensory pathways of the tadpole. What they discovered when they interrupted that light print was that the tadpole grew 2 heads or 3 tails or 7 legs, all kinds of anomalies for that species, because they interrupted the transmission of that light print. Now, I don't want to make that mean too much, but I will say that there is research showing that light is conducted by tissue, and it is the microtubulin of the fascia. And this is really, really important to us in that we can't see it any more than we can see gravity. But we can become more aware of those forces and counter forces of the ground reaction force to gravity that we animate with every breath. That is what biotensegrity models, our actual living movement on a planet. So you and I are on different sides of our planet, but we are both glued to the ground, but it's a radial force. So if we were hanging upside down now, relative to each other, one of us is upside down, how are we doing that? Because gravity's pulling us to the planet.
Yes.
Well, then how are we standing without being crushed? Well, because ground reaction force to exactly the same amount is pulling us away. But how do we occupy that volume without looking like a flat-packed kitchen? So we have to move, if you like, from the anatomy trains lines to the anatomy chains spheres. And this is a map of those spheres, and this is a map of the spheres, and we are moving into roundness, which is where I live. That's why we have to do the yoga part, the soft part, the sitting softly, to experience how the soft body is still communicating to us. It is still essentially balanced, and it's the counterbalance to the active body. So we then start, if you like, smoothing the pathway between the force forward and the soft, the external and the internal, the above and the below. We start balancing. We become the balance. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes.
And then we can, in spiritual terms, we can bring in the light. We can, you know how, let me just say, I know you're going to have fun translating this, Anna. When we talk about somebody being happy, our language in English, we say, I don't know what you say in Portuguese, but in English we say they are very light-hearted.
Light-hearted.
Or, yes, or your footsteps are light. There's a spring in your step, and that's the season of light after the winter. We have the spring. So the spring is literally a spring, like a spring. I don't know if it's the same word in Portuguese. And the season is the spring. So we associate life and lightness with light and lightness, physically and symbolically.
Okay. In Portuguese it's different, but I will explain that.
Okay, I'll wait. A job to explain that.
Yeah. Okay. So, ela fala que o nosso corpo, ela cita alguns experimentos científicos que comprovam que o nosso corpo conduz bioeletricidade, forças, a gente está num campo magnético podendo gerar luz, né? Então, a fáscia é uma grande condutora dessa energia, né? Gerando o que a gente pode falar dessa luz interna. Quando a gente pensa no modelo de biotensegridade, a gente está pensando num modelo de forças, né? Mas a gente tem que lembrar que esse modelo, ele é soft, ele é macio, existe essa parte, então a gente tem que pensar numa parte macia que existe na biotensegridade e nessa parte que é mais estrutural. Essa parte mais macia, que ela chama de soft, é a parte que a gente acessa através da nossa consciência, das nossas sensações. Então, ela dá um exemplo. Como é que a gente fica em pé com a força da gravidade atuando, né? Se a gente fosse pensar que existia só a força de gravidade, a gente ia ficar esmagado, né? Mas existe uma outra força contrária que mantém, então, e deixa a gente em pé, né? Sem a gente ficar esmagado. E se a gente pensar nessas duas forças, a gente forma, então, um corpo, um volume de corpo no espaço capaz de se movimentar. Então, dos trilhos anatômicos do Anatomy Trains, a gente vai para as cadeias anatômicas presentes no conceito de biotensegridade e que dá volume, né, para o nosso corpo e que dá movimento no espaço. Então, fáscia conduz essa luz, porque através dos microtúbulos a gente tem um corpo que tem volume, que reage com uma força gravitacional e antigravitacional, através das cadeias miofaciais. Ok.
Wow. That's amazing in Portuguese. I love luz. Light is light, isn't it?
Yeah, luz, yes.
My dearest friends, her middle name is Maya Luz, and it's beautiful. So, what happens in yoga sometimes, we have certain postures that are very forceful, and it's as if, for example, Virasana, where we kneel down on the folded leg, and then we take that feet wide and roll the thighs in and try to lie back between the legs. So this is a very strong force on opening the knee and opening the forefoot and closing opening the anterior knee, but really closing the posterior knee, opening the anterior ankle, closing the posterior ankle. And these are very strong forces. And sometimes we behave as if more is better for its own sake. And in yoga postures, we are, because we live in a culture of competitiveness, if one person can do it, then I must do what they're doing.
Yeah.
And what I try to demonstrate from a biotensegral point of view is that if you are listening to your own fascial matrix and you learn its language, and it speaks a very fluent language, and it is not your mother tongue. My fascia doesn't speak English and your fascia doesn't speak Portuguese. That's not their language. Body language is not English or French or Italian or Spanish or Portuguese or anything. Body speaks in sensation. It speaks in resonances. And it speaks in harmonies or disharmonies. And you become tuned to your body's harmonies. And in yoga, we do a lot of toning and chanting. Well, there's several very good reasons for this, because toning and chanting open a part of the brain that make you, that calm the autonomic nervous system. For example, a mother sings a lullaby to her baby. It literally produces serotonin and calms the baby. The baby feels safe, assuming the baby can hear. The resonance field of that brings the high active, what I call high octane, you know, got to get there now, finish my goals, my commitment list, tick everything on my fridge list that day, go to bed with my goals, and did I make my goals, and did I da-da-da-da-da, and then we are upset when we didn't. We shift that to one way of listening to the body at high octane, if you like, or high demand, it's a better word, because we actually become clearer and we have a higher octane fuel when we know how to go to the other end of the scale and soften. Now, it doesn't mean, the English word would be soppy. It doesn't mean, oh, you go all floppy and I've this, and I can feel my head telling me there's something wrong. Oh my God, I can't practice today. I don't mean drama. I don't mean silly. I mean a conscious, deliberate stillness where you can hear the tune and the tone of your system. And in fact, we are all super sensitive to that all the time anyway. This isn't just the chosen few or the intuitive ones. Intuition, you're born with intuition. The skill is being able to hear your own calibration, or better way to say it is tune your own instrument. This is an instrument. Yes. And can you tune this instrument? This instrument is a strung instrument. These are the strings. Each of them has a resonance, and every single strand of fascia is pre-tensioned. So this is an instrument. Yeah. So what is my music? So you and I immediately, when we were on, the minute we got on this Zoom call, there was a resonance field that our system calibrated. We both smiled and the greeting was immediate. And when we started talking, we were speaking the same language. I know we were both speaking English and I wouldn't have understood your Portuguese, but the body language or the sensory language was the same. Okay. And that's what I'm bringing to the Biotensegrity in Canada is that thoughtfulness. That doesn't mean we're just going to sit on the floor for 5 hours and do nothing at all. But what we are going to do is explore the volume control of our activity.
Can I call that the interoception?
Yes, except that it's not separate from exteroception.
Okay. All right.
You understand my dilemma?
Yes.
Because what's happening is we are reducing things and dividing them down. So we say interoception is inside, exteroception is outside. Well, your skin is the membrane interface, but inside your skin is every tubule of fascia is another inner membrane. So which is outside and which is inside?
Yeah. We have to remember
that start somewhere.
Unified.
Exactly.
These are not separate. Okay.
Exactly.
So let me explain.
I'll give that to you now, Anna. Your genius will translate that and interpret that into Portuguese.
Ok. Ela fala que na yoga tem algumas poses. onde você requer um trabalho muito externo, um trabalho muscular muito forte, onde você, por exemplo, pega uma articulação, você flexiona bastante, enfim, tem um trabalho intenso, tá? Mas a yoga é capaz também de acessar a nossa linguagem corporal. E linguagem corporal não é o fato de eu falar português, ela falar inglês, não. Cada um tem a sua linguagem interna, a sua linguagem corporal, que é resultante de experiências, das suas experiências de sensações. É uma coisa sensorial. Então, essa linguagem corporal, se ela está em harmonia, tá? Você tem todo um campo energético que você cria, e você tem, então, esse conceito de biotensegridade na sua melhor forma. Então, a gente tem que lembrar que nesse modelo de biotensegridade, esses elásticos são as partes mais moles do nosso tecido, mas que existe essa sensação, essa informação sensorial que vem desse corpo. A gente não pode negligenciar isso. E aí eu falei para ela, posso falar que é a interocepção? Ela disse, pode, mas a gente não pode separar interocepção e propriocepção. É tudo junto, tudo faz parte de um corpo e tudo está interligado. Então, lá no Canadá, a Joanne, ela vai falar mais sobre essa parte interna do nosso corpo, essa parte das sensações, da nossa linguagem corporal, e a fáscia tem a sua própria linguagem. Então, o mais importante, o mais bonito é que cada fáscia de cada indivíduo tem a sua própria linguagem baseada nas suas experiências sensoriais. Ok.
Brilliant.
You know, I love this. Every fascia has its own language, and this language it has nothing to do with your mother language, but has to do with your sensations, with your experience, with your sensorial experience.
Exactly. And more than that, and this gets really exciting, is that it's archetypal in that you have your history, your biography, and that is the filter through which your biology expresses. Yeah. I have mine. So when I'm teaching in a Pilates school, we will adapt the language a little bit that we use with our tongue, but we are still working with the same feedback system. We're just working with it in a different way. So every movement modality works. So it's not that yoga is better than Pilates. Yoga is a different thing to Pilates. Yoga is a way of life. Pilates is an activity. The yoga we have on the mat is an activity that matches Pilates, and some people prefer one or the other. There are many different types of Pilates. There are many different types of yoga. So when people say to me, who shall I go to study? I say, take a month, visit 10 teachers or 5 teachers, choose the one that you fall in love with. Exactly. That you love their way, because that delight, notice the word in English, delight, literally lights up your tissue and resonates with you. Yeah. Now, you know, there's lots of exceptions to everything, Anna, but my purpose is to bring people home to their own wisdom, to their own best self, to their already brilliant system. People don't come to me injured. People come to me whole and complete first, and they may have an injury. But our culture is now designed that when you walk into a therapist or you walk into a teacher, you are the one that's kind of less or in the wrong or injured, and they are the one that knows the answers and is right and knows what to do. And this gives rise to this guru thing where we go to a teacher to be told how to work with ourselves. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's crazy, because you're with your teacher for 1 hour and yourself for 23. Yeah. So we have to have we have to establish and learn and grow our self-sense. And that is the translation between exteroception and interoception. It's the integration of both in a coherent and healthy way for us. And that changes. It changes with the seasons. It changes with the rhythms. It changes with the time of day.
Yes.
And if we can understand that, our need to understand that is an increase in consciousness. Suddenly, everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know what's going on. You can no longer go to your doctor and ask the doctor to tell you what to do. You go online. There's a new verb, to Google. To Google means to look up and research. We can all do it now. Everybody has access to this knowledge. But what is developing through biotensegrity for me is a very intelligent way, a body intelligent way of translating that information into appropriate action. And when we understand how the fascia works, it works in a different timeline to our standard muscle training. It works in a different recovery time. We start having much more health because we have people who are not overtraining. Most injuries in Olympics are connective tissue injuries, soft tissue injuries. And we start having, what starts to happen is we develop what can I call it? A kind of a code. You become much more confident in the interface of your code with everyday life. I could talk about it for a week, and I know we have to go, but it's a coding system. It's a body language that we learn to interpret much more succinctly.
Okay, and biotensegrity helps exactly with that.
Biotensegrity gives us the map.
The map, okay.
And it gives us the territory. So here's the thing. Classical anatomy is like postcodes. It's very interesting. It tells you where you are. And you could send me a gift tomorrow, and I can give you a code. And that code has a number, a dash, 3 letters and a number, 3 letters and a number, or 2 letters and a number, whatever. But that code, if you put it on an envelope, Anna, that gift will arrive to me. But you have no clue, my darling, no clue at all, whether you are sending that to a shed or an apartment or a castle or a house or what. You've no idea what the accommodation is.
Yes.
Standard classical anatomy gives us postcodes.
Okay.
Biotensegrity brings us into understanding the accommodation.
Okay.
They're very different things. And some of our modern biomechanics is explained via postcodes, and it doesn't make sense of the territory or the accommodation. It doesn't make sense. So we are growing into 21st century anatomy where we understand the volumetric accommodation and how we occupy that in multi-dimensions, multi-sensory, multi-dimensions.
Okay.
Good luck.
Ok, então está falando que a yoga é uma ferramenta que faz a gente acessar essa nossa fáscia, e o trabalho dela é fazer com que as pessoas voltem para, ela fala, home, para sua própria casa, para sua e dessas casas que você habita sair então a sua sabedoria interna. Nada mais é do que você ter uma consciência do seu corpo e saber, a partir dessa consciência, entender melhor como o seu corpo funciona, e isso acontece através da ajuda da fáscia. Ela faz uma relação da fáscia com toning and chanting. Ela fala que na yoga tem a parte que a gente faz os mantras, canta, né? E a parte do tônus, que são os exercícios físicos mesmo. Mas é porque ativam áreas no cérebro, áreas que vão ajudar a gente a entender e acessar melhor a nossa fáscia, esse nosso mapa de biotensegridade. Aí ela faz uma comparação do modelo de biotensegridade na anatomia clássica e no modelo de biotensegridade. Na anatomia clássica, é como se você pegasse um pacote e eu fosse enviar esse pacote para ela. Então, tem um código, né, que eu posso monitorar, que é aquele tracking number, e eu vou saber que o meu pacote chegou para a Joanne, mas eu não sei se a Joanne mora num apartamento, numa casa, não sei nada disso. Na biotensegridade, eu vou saber que o caminho que essa encomenda fez para chegar até ela, e vou saber que acomodação esse pacote vai chegar. Se é uma casa, se é um apartamento, se é um sítio. Então, eu tenho noção de todo esse processo. E agora, no século XXI, a gente está estudando o corpo mais nessa tridimensão, talvez numa quarta dimensão, entendendo o seu volume, entendendo como ele funciona de forma unificada, e a FACE tem um papel nisso. Joanne, thank you so much, but our time is up. But, you know, I just love to talk to you because, you know, the way you explain biotensegrity open up for us a new view, a new place to understand and to reflect. So I'm looking forward to meet you in person in Canada.
And one last word is that movement is not an intellectual process. So having the words is one thing, but what this gives us is the volume of our experience. So biotensegrity is like moving from intellectual anatomy to experiential accommodation, because movement is not an intellectual process, and that's why we have to move into it.
Ela quer terminar falando que o movimento não é um processo intelectual. Quando a gente pensa da biotensegridade, a gente pensa nesse volume, dessas experiências sensoriais. O movimento é resultado disso também, e a gente não pode negligenciar. Thank you so much. Look forward to see you in Canada.
Ditto. Big love.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And you. Bye.
Bye.